Commission meeting to order for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, 4 p.m. meeting held via WebEx. First thing we'll do is call to order. I will call out the commissioners by name, and if you could just repeat your name out loud in order to know you're here. David?
David Cook.
Shannon?
Shannon Burgess.
Ben?
Ben Goodman.
Todd?
Todd Boyer.
And I think that's everybody. Is that right, staff?
Yes, Commissioner McNair and Michael Smith are both won't be present tonight.
Okay, fair enough. Next commission monthly business meeting is at noon on Tuesday, March 30th, 2021, also virtual, held via WebEx. Next commission meeting is Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 at 4 p.m., also virtual. And we can move to swearing in of the staff. Will there be anybody besides you today, Kimberly?
No, just me.
Will you state your name for the record?
Kimberly Bernard Sheehy.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon?
I do.
Great. Introduction. We already did commissioners. I'm Jason Sudi. I should say that for the record. And then approval of minutes. Can I have a motion for the February 9th, 2021 minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Great. I'll call the roll. David?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And I say yes as well. Motion carries. Any public forum today, staff?
No, there is not. And I would like to note for the staff approvals, there's also one clearance issued as well, just a heads up.
Okay, thanks. And I guess we're into that now. So we are ready for staff.
Well, staff approvals would have to be ratified and looked at by you guys.
No, I get it. Is there anything else, though, that we need to know about that other issue?
Sorry. The clearance issued is the 31, hold on, let me see where it is. The 3116.05, the no architectural features have been affected. So this is just the first time that we've had one come up. So I wanted you guys to know that that was part of the approval.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. So the staff approved applications start on page 5. And can I have a motion for those? We'll do abstentions in a moment.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Great. I'll call the roll, then we'll go back and get abstentions. All in favor, David?
Yes, in favor.
Todd?
Yes.
Ben?
Can I get a clarification what staff was saying about these that we're approving? There's an exception.
So the clearance issued one, is the one that the no architectural features have been affected. So James Goodman has looked over them and he's signed off specifically. So it doesn't have a certificate of appropriateness. It's handled a little bit differently.
And so staff is satisfied with that approach?
Yes.
Yes. My vote is yes.
Great. Shannon?
Yes.
Okay, now I'll go through and ask for abstentions on the staff approved applications. 50, these all start on page 5, by the way. 53 East Russell, 39 East Hubbard. That's it. Okay, any abstentions? Speak now.
Not me.
Okay, hearing none, it stands as voted. So with that, let's go up to the top here, and I think we're ready to get into applications for certificates. Staff, you want to jump us into number 1? Number 2, actually.
Number 2 has actually been withdrawn as of this afternoon. So we're going to hop into number 3.
Yep.
All right.
Real quick. And please pardon the cat. She's jumping around.
She's having her day.
Oh, give me a second, folks. Sorry about that disruption. Alrighty, so
Real quickly, I have to abstain from this one, so I'm really blazing through this agenda. So I will, I'll just be here whenever you need.
thanks, Jason. All right, this is application IV-21-02-007, 347 East Fifth Avenue. This is Site 2. This is a continued item with a request for action. The applicant is seeking approval for Site 2's architecture, density, massing, and parking. The landscape, exterior lighting, and artwork will be submitted at a later date. This does include that site auxiliary area that they've kind of been developing as well. So hopefully that should be brought back for the April hearing. But getting back to this one, the redevelopment portion of the industrial site into a 3-story and 4-story multi-housing. There are 134 units proposed with 164 parking spaces. Surface parking is proposed, as is a level of underground parking. The proposed windows are a single hung Quaker V200 vinyl. The exterior materials will be brick, metal panel, fiber cement siding, and CMU per submitted documentation. The previous comments are below. The commissioners at the business meeting were having a little bit of difficulty with that intersection. There was some concern regarding the development of the site amenity, which I mentioned previously. That should be back to us April, if not relatively soon. Parking should be parallel parking. Commissioners requested larger scaled measured drawings, as some mistakes were noted, and there was a request to see the scale of the proposed material instead of just the hatch pattern. It was also suggested that another window alternative should be prepared. Staff did recommend using one from the approved windows list. The Quaker windows have been used at the 719 Civitas and future Jeffrey projects. In the past, the Jeffrey Park was using the comparable Lindsay vinyl windows, and Station 324 also used the Lindsay product, and this was carried over from another staff report. So the Quaker aluminum products were used at the Wonder Bread. Any sashes with muntins are to be simulated divided light sash with the muntins permanently applied to the interior exterior of the glass with the spacer bar between the layer of glass. The Quaker V200 windows were reviewed at another hearing for a different project. The item was continued. HPO staff does not find the final Quaker windows proposed appropriate due to the micro corners with the large heat wells and the exterior muntins. Staff does recommend approval with the condition that the windows be continued for further review, or windows from the approved list are used. Basis for recommendation is 3116.112, standards for new construction, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, K. And I will turn this back over to you, Todd, so we can get our applicants sworn in.
All right. Thank you. Applicants, which ones actually will be speaking tonight? Matt, is it just you, or are there others?
It is myself and Dan.
Okay, perfect. All right. Dan, I'm just looking to make sure, is he on the line here?
I don't see him.
Yeah, I don't see him.
And it is myself.
Sounds good. All right. If you don't mind raising your right hand and stating your name for the record.
Matt Canterbury.
Do you swear to tell the truth this evening in your testimony?
I sure do.
Take it away, Matt.
Thank you for everyone. What we are looking at here is a request for approval based upon comments that have been picked up from previous meetings, as well as an opportunity to discuss windows, as was previously mentioned. So alongside that, I think I can jump right into the pieces and parts that have been looked at. As a reminder, the site amenity is not a part of this. That will follow. In fact, I would expect for you to see a conceptual of that next month. Site 2 is on the left side of your screen. If we could go to the next slide, please. And that highlights that that's not there. So the building density, the configuration and a majority of the architecture has stayed the same. If we could go to the, actually stay here for just a moment. Thank you. The Detroit coming through that has been moved to parallel parking. We are requesting that we have some headed in front of that amenity building. The future intent of that, should we be able to get the remainder of the land to the east, is that that will be a centralized building for the entirety of the leasing and amenity processes there. Next slide, please. I want to speak a little bit to the orientation of the streets and be able to zoom out a little bit. Now, every one of these intersections is not something that exists today, but just to give you an idea of the datum, as we changed for the sloped area of Grant Avenue through the middle of the site, which allowed for more space on what will be the future amenity lot. We were still trying to do this by a continuity of the grid. So the light pink lines that are shooting through are really the datum lines by which we've affected. So as you can see, 4th Avenue as an example comes straight through, but we don't have control over that omni lot, but we have lined a road such that that can continue, for example, right? Grant Avenue, when Wyland Park changed that up north, they sloped it down. We are meeting with that as a result of a meeting with the city. It is likely there will be a signalization there as a heads up. And then we are looking at a datum point to the south, where the south side of Site 2 adjourns to the property there. That is that's the reason we aligned it there. So I know that we have tried to respond. Hopefully this gives a little bit more understanding as what we're trying to do. Architecturally, I believe all the changes are subtle, and frankly, they are all things that have been requested by the commission that we've explored to change. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, and I'd be willing to answer any questions afterwards, obviously. I'd like
Matt,
to go to the
could I
windows if
stop
I
you just a
could,
minute?
which is further down.
Alex, can you take out the other noise background that's really distracting to hear Matt talk?
Yeah, I've been looking for that and I cannot find where that voice is coming from. So I don't know.
Okay, well, it's really hard to hear Matt talk. We can go forward, whatever the noise is. It seems like it's quieted down now, but.
Is this helpful, David?
Well, you're clear now. There was
Does
all the
that help?
background stuff that was going on.
Okay. It might have been on my side. I've been having some issues with my phone. We good now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. If we could go to the blow-ups of the windows near the end of the packet, please. There is a sheet that has all 3 windows compared. I believe
You're going to be looking for something in the 20s, Belkis.
Yes, thank you. There we go. Okay, what we have done and what our intention is, yes, we are looking to get approved windows that are not currently on the approved list. If you start all the way on the right, the Gelbin sightline is on the approved list. What we're trying to recreate here is actually the creation, the windows that are installed at the Beaker building in the visual there, as well as to show the details of the jam, the head. And what that has is they are interior mullions in between the glass with a very small profile brick mold. The 2 windows to the left are the 2 that we're looking for approval upon. And what we're doing with those to try to have much more relief, visual interest, shadow lines is a couple of things. Number one, making sure that we have a stout brick mold, but beyond that, also looking at the interior mullion with the addition of both interior side muntins, 3-dimensional, external on the outside as well. So this is a comparison of those, and just to give you a real good sort of feel as to the looks and the impacts. And that is what we're asking for approval. So love to seek a vote tonight on the project, and obviously with staff's recommendations, talk about if in fact the windows are needed to be separated, if we could move forward with some sort of a subcommittee to be able to discuss those and the intent behind that. And with that, I will silence myself and answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Matt. All right, let's just go around and get some comments. Who'd like to go first?
I'll start it off,
Okay.
but I'm going to speak to you, Todd, because I like your opinion. But the two, the one in the middle and the one on the left, seems to me to have a positive appeal due to the shadowing. Given how big these facades are and the number of windows, this feels far better than the one that is on the far right. However, I'm not real keen on the interior mullions. I thought we talked about that we wanted the reveals always to be, or the raised part on the exterior. Am I correct in those two assumptions, that the first two going left to center has a positive shadow and depth to it, and that we would want the reveals on the exterior, not on the interior?
Yeah, yes to both of those. I would agree that the brick mold is positive. Sure, left too gives that depth that Matt was talking about. And with the simulated divided light, I think historically we've always, if we're going to go that route, just to put it on the outside, only doing the interior and the exterior gives it more of a fake look. So your 2 points, David, I think are right on.
Okay, and then another observation, I'm noticing that the far right one seems to have 6 panels over 6 panels. The other ones are 9 over 9s. Do you have any feelings about it being an excessive amount, that we would prefer a 6 over 6, or does somebody feel passionate about the 9 over 9?
I don't know that I actually have a strong opinion either way. The renderings throughout show a 9 over 9, like the larger renderings. So, and it seems to be, it's fine to me.
Okay.
Anybody else? Shannon, any thoughts?
No, I mean, I agree. I'm really okay with either the Quaker or the Lindsay, so whichever one you guys all decide on. But I'm seeing these, I do like the relief that it gives on these facades. Are we only talking about windows right now, or are we talking about everything right now? Okay.
Everything.
On the site plan, if you could go back up to the site plan. So I am fine with the front end parking on the like eastern side of the site amenity. But on the southern side, I really think, I know you're going to lose spaces, but I really think that needs to be parallel parking. I think you're going to create a log jam otherwise. You know, with folks kind of driving through and trying to back out, you know, into cars that are stopped at that intersection. I just see that kind of creating a bad traffic pattern right there. So I think that on Grant, that needs to be parallel, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Ben, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll pick up where Shannon was talking about. I totally agree, although that's all kind of off the agenda for now, but just to foreshadow my opinions about parallel parking. But what is important is on the other side of Detroit, and I do appreciate what Matt's talking about of creating alignments with the existing street fabric and grid. But we just need to do a little more here, Matt. And this is going to affect, I know that you are not looking for site approval today, but there is something that could ripple right into architecture. And that is that I think the that the south edge of Detroit needs parking as well. It needs to behave like or look like a street instead of a parking lot sort of, pass through. So it could very well be that's going to impact the density or sort of the footprint of the building buildings of Site 2 as it on the north edge, and could be a real sort of interrupter for the architecture itself. Perhaps it's just a matter of scaling everything, or sort of drawing back everything by 12 feet, but I don't know that for sure for you. So suffice to say that this is, as long as you can fit parallel parking in on Detroit, then I can be good with the architecture with the following stipulations. One is we don't have enough detail at the entrances, and so I would be inclined, if we were to do any sort of approval of architecture, that we hold that out for further review and future approval. I'm not really buying into the double stripe of some types of, I guess it's a metal material between the masses of buildings. So I don't know what drawing to go to, one of the renderings. And this is also an outcome of that we just don't have enough detail in these small drawings. But I would go to one of the renderings to see if we can point this out. Further, getting close here. So between the brick masses, there's a funny architectural dividing feature that it's hard to tell what that is, and it's hard to tell if it's appropriate or not. So I would be inclined to withhold that from any sort of approval today. And then going on further, I support staff for the windows. The sort of the main issue on the table right now is fiberglass versus aluminum, or really the approved versus non-approved windows. If we're talking about the configurations of what we saw today, I do like the brick mold, and I think that David's right that the 6 light is probably better, but the molding that's shown in that particular window or exhibit is not correct. So, or I don't think it's appropriate. So those 4 things, again, site and parallel parking in Detroit, better view and non-approval of the entrances, a better view of a non-approval of dividing features between the apartment buildings, and the windows. I support staff.
Okay, thank you, Ben. And the only thing I have to add on to that would be the same comments I think that were brought about windows. I like the brick mold. I think that's a nice, I think that's the right move. I also appreciate the added divided lights. I think, like I mentioned, only on the exterior is required for me. And then, but it does come down to the actual material. And I think that we've addressed that with that creation of the approved list. So I think I would lean with staff's comments about that, is to find that same solution on the approved list. So with that, Matt, there were a bunch of kind of items that were listed on there. What do you want to, well, you can respond or, add some other questions or comments, but also want to get your thoughts on next steps.
I appreciate that. If I could talk, the south side of Detroit, Commissioner Goodwin, if you could, if we could go to the next page, I'll zoom in a little bit on that site plan. So just for clarity, and I'll talk directionally in terms of what's on the screen. So north being up.
North being
where,
right.
It's not.
Sorry. So where actually up is west. Okay.
Right.
All right. So on the southwest, so not where Grant jogs, that is where you're speaking specifically of parallel, correct?
Well, I think it's all dependent on the width of the street. So I think that every spot is a candidate, much like any T intersection in a short north neighborhood might still have parking on the opposite side as the vehicle approaches the T.
And that's the clarity I was seeking is, is parallel on a T. I just driven a lot of those instances that happen, and I don't find that to be the most safe, although I do agree that does exist within the neighborhood. I'm just really
But certainly
looking for,
on the southwest edge, what would be west of the Site 2 Grant.
I believe that's something we could figure out. I'm not overly concerned with that component. I would be amenable to that. I am concerned a little bit about where the dead end and where the T exists, just from a traffic's going to be moving through there, and I personally just don't find that to be a very safe situation. Would that be amenable if we were to agree to that?
I don't think I can't agree for the whole commission, but suffice to say, I think there's
fair.
There's reasonable ways to get it accomplished, and or just that it's a further step back of the building, so that's a wider walk space, so it aligns properly with the full sort of dimensional width from building to building. Much the way you would imagine it on Detroit, further on to the west.
Okay.
So I guess in some ways, what I'm proposing is that, and the commission may not be supporting me on this, but that the north edge of that building may very well have to move 10 or 12 feet to the south. And that allows Grant to be wider and better for circulation anyway.
Okay. Other clarity and items. You mentioned that it could be a condition of approval to get more detail on the vertical piece. And I just clarity. You're talking about the channel that's essentially creating a simulated divide on a rather flat facade. Is that correct? On the 4-story building.
I think the answer is yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Let's point it out. Let's have a cursor float over to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Nope. Keep going left.
Image.
There we go.
Any of those divided features, it's hard. I don't know. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. Todd, do you know what these are and have a sense of comfort with those elements as an appropriate element? Should we ask for more detail in a continued conditional motion?
It certainly, I mean, that's a detail that I've seen around, but it would certainly be helpful to understand how it's going to be executed from this design team, whether the brick's going to turn in or, all that kind of stuff. If there's downspouts going down through there, I doubt there are, but it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit more detail on those.
I'm concerned it's also brake metal, so.
Right, to understand those materials.
Okay. So, Mr. Boyer, to answer your question, I would certainly like, and in a couple instances, certainly to move forward with any sort of conditional approval we can. Frankly, a couple of these details have been on these drawings for, I think, 3 meetings now, and I understand that the commission can't see every detail every time, so I get that part. But anything we could do conditionally to move forward with that would be my desire. The windows, it does appear that they would potentially necessitate more conversation to separate those out and to explore more dialogue on that would be desirable. The site plan would, in fact, change the potentially affect the density. And so my intent would be to agree to the southwest component and to create parallel on the east side of the site amenity. The harder putt for me is certainly that 4-story building right there. Any advice as to how to properly word that would be appreciated.
Right.
But my intent is to really, we would need to, this doesn't always play, but we need to get moving. But I know the solution's got to be the right solution.
Right. Let's see here. So to your point, Matt, probably some continued discussion on both sides about the windows. I think we've given some good feedback on that. It's whether or not you can find a solution that matches on the approved window list. Some improved details or some more information on a couple of those details, the entries, those vertical dividers. It seems like the parking and the parallel parking is the big issue because that'll affect density, footprint, all of those kind of things. We probably need to figure out a way to craft this motion so that we can give Matt, I would think for the majority of it, it seems like we're okay as a commission. And that we could get through some of these details in a committee. But what does everybody feel about how to create? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I can craft a motion.
Okay.
So move to approve application IV 2102-007 with the 2 reviews with staff that need to be continued. 1, the appropriate window, and 2, the details, the architectural details to be reviewed by a subcommittee of Ben and Todd.
I'll second that, but with some conversation. I don't think that it has to be in subcommittee. That's not the timeline that concerns those guys, unless this is about budget, or whether the project exists or not based on entrances and windows. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that I'm concerned that we can get any sort of parallel parking in there. If that's a concern to anybody else, then I don't know how we can feel comfortable that we can move forward without some sort of vision of.
I mean, having the parallel parking on the east on one side, which is what's there right now, is comfortable to me.
So you feel like that matches the fabric of Detroit, or the way Detroit is?
I think that parallel parking is what's important, and I think not having it on one side is perfectly acceptable in certain situations. As you can see, in terms of the street width in this, it's not like, I think that there are often times in denser areas that a street is not wide enough to have parking on 2 sides.
May I interject real quick? Okay. And I apologize for the interruption, but Detroit is parallel on just the north side. Just so everybody knows this, Detroit is a smaller cross section. It's parallel on the north side only. So I'm hearing Ben's comments respectfully as a matter of urban, but if this is a matter of Detroit, then this is matching Detroit.
Fair point.
And again, I think that it is perfectly okay throughout a neighborhood to have some changes in when you can parallel park on both sides versus only one side based on the historic width of that street. So I think it's perfectly acceptable.
So Shannon, does your motion exclude any sort of parking on the western part of and south edge of Detroit?
I mean, at that point, you're talking about the portions of the plan that we don't.
No, I'm talking about the south
We don't own.
edge of Detroit on the west part of Site 2. So there are two parts of Detroit that pass through. One part's north of Grant, the other part's, I'm sorry, west of Grant, the other part's east of Grant. So it sounds to me like I'm standing alone as far as east of Grant, but west of Grant, that's.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's safe for, I mean, I guess you could, but again, it's so thin, it's so, the width there, it kind of doesn't make sense. And especially if it's always, if the rest of Detroit, which Matt, right when you said that, I thought about it and you're right, the rest of Detroit only has parking on one side, then no, you wouldn't switch parking over all of a sudden to another side. For what? To gain 4 spaces that you actually kind of like dead into from Grant? I don't think so because of the building there. What I see right there is like a crash waiting to happen.
Well, I think I would second it and ask you to allow the applicant to look at parking on that west of Grant if it suits them for increasing parking for the overall site. But all your other points were well taken, and I could get on board with that modification.
So we have Shannon has crafted a motion. I would like to second that.
Okay. All right. So
I could have, in doing so, if I could just add one other factor for Matt for clarity. The renderings that you've presented to us, Matt, are very elaborate, particularly the one with the mass of bats flying through the purple sky or the pink sky. But I honestly cannot tell the doors. If we could drop down, that picture is a little frightening. Come on down, come on. Okay, that one. These double doors in the black buildings look like industrial back doors to a drop-off point. They don't seem particularly residential or friendly to the village. And the scale of the broken light on the verticals, but not over the transom. Then you compare it to the other door to the other side. These doors don't play well together. And I think that's one of the things we've been trying to, when we've been talking about entrances as a category, I think some more work needs to be done on these.
I agree.
I think that can be part of the review.
I agree. And that's why I'm supporting your motion by seconding it. But I wanted Matt to hear some other feedback about that. Why are we bringing that up now?
I appreciate that, and I've got it written down.
all right, perfect. So we have a motion from Shannon, second from David. Let's go around and get the vote.
I'm unclear what the motion is, Todd. It's
okay.
going through. I had already seconded it with a proposed modification, and then David came in and proposed a second, I guess, without the modification, but with his own comments. So let's talk about let's make sure we're clear about what the motion is.
Okay, so Shannon, the question, I guess, for you would be if you're willing to add, because you motioned to have to continue for more discussion on the windows and architectural details, and then Ben asked if you'd be willing to add the parking situation to your motion to let Matt, if he was inclined to do that, to look at that additional parking on the south side of Detroit. And then David also suggested if you were willing to add add to the architectural details discussion, the doors.
Entrances.
The entrance.
It's in the entrance. It's already there.
Yep. So Shannon, if you're amendable to that being part of your motion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part about Ben, I mean, I can certainly add that if Matt would like to look at the parking some more, we would be amenable to him adding additional parallel parking, but it's not a requirement of
Right.
this approval.
That's all I'm saying.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
We're not doing this as a subgroup. We're just, any of those other architectural features just come up in the next commission. No?
Right. We can continue those elements.
Right. Continue.
Okay, all right.
So Ben, are you still good with that? All those items for your second? All right,
Okay.
perfect.
Just for staff clarity, we are continuing this. We are not approving. Correct?
No,
We
we're
are-
approving. We're approving.
Okay.
Conditionally approving.
We're continuing a couple details. Ben, I think that's why it moves to the subcommittee, because we're approving.
You can continue certain items.
You just have to break them out into motion A and motion B.
Okay.
We're just approving it without the entrances and without the windows and without those center dividing pieces.
So staff, how do you want us to, since we need to then do two motions to do that, how would you like us to craft that?
If you'd like anything to come back to the commission, please call that out separately and continue it, just so it's a little bit more clear for everybody. And if you want to
Okay.
approve something with like a subcommittee or with my review, you can go ahead and approve that with, you know, drawings to come back to staff or drawings to come back to subcommittee.
Okay. Do you need me to restate my motion then? I move to approve application IV 2102007 on the condition that architectural details, including entrances, window selection, and the exploration of adding additional parking, parallel parking, come back before the commission. All other items are approved.
You forgot the vertical strip piece.
Yeah.
In the vertical
Building materials.
and building materials.
Second.
Basically, we've approved mapping.
All right. All right, perfect. Then we'll take the roll call. Shannon,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. So the motion carries.
Well, that's an A, and we need to do a B according to Kimberly of what we're continuing. I thought. Is that not true, Kimberly?
Yes, that would be preferred.
Okay.
But it sounds
Okay.
like Shannon kind of included that in that motion.
If that's clear to you, that's fine with me.
Yeah, as long as that, and is that clear to you, Matt, as well? Because I'm a little bit more concerned about you being lost than I am you being lost.
What you there's a lot of people in my life that have those concerns, so I get that. So yes, let's reiterate just for me, the entrance architectural detailing of the entrances of what we're calling the vertical channel and the windows with the opportunity to explore parallel parking.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, then no, I got that. I'm good.
Awesome.
Matt, just for one other clarification, could you identify, coming back to us, could you identify where, if any, break metal material is used? That we haven't talked about these awnings. They are part of the entrance, but we have no idea what those materials are. So would you please be specific? Is there any break metal used on the buildings?
We will be very specific about that. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
All right. On to application number 4. Jason, guess you got this one.
All right, sounds good. Over to staff.
All right. This application is IV-21-02-0006. This is 299 Dickinson Street, also previously reviewed as Phase 9 of Jeffrey Park. This project consists of new construction requested to approve basic massing, scale, and the proposed footprint. So the applicant can proceed with the garage development. This is to construct a 5-story mixed-use building, office, parking garage, community space, apartments at the southern boundary of the site. The building would have the 5 office stories, 4 garage stories, 5 stories apartments, and amenities. The exterior material would consist of brick, composite panel, horizontal and vertical formed metal panel, aluminum louvers, and wood soffits. This has updates of the garage aerials, and amenity and views have been developed. Redwood has been inset to the balconies, larger courtyards with more green space and less hardscape. The office and apartments are separated with a 30-foot wide pedestrian alley that leads directly to the circulation core running north-south. There was some concern over the same old windows between the apartments and the office, which has been solved by separation. Material colors and fenestration further studied and broken up not to have the same thing repeated. I have included commissioner comments from the previous review. Commissioners at the business meeting appreciated the updates, especially how much work went into opening that entrance area. Commissioners suggested perhaps screening the south elevation of the garage that faces I-670 to hide the interior lights. They suggested at looking OSU's the James parking screening for inspiration. It was suggested that the pedestrian passage go all the way through to the fire lane road so that the area would better match the existing planning fabric. More green space along the edge of the site was also encouraged. Staff does recommend continuing the application for a complete design. This is based off of the standards for new construction 3116.12 A, H, I, J, K, and N. And I'd like to call attention to the time just so everybody is aware that it's going faster than we probably all think it is. I will hand it back to you, Jason, so we can get our applicants sworn in.
Sounds good. Who do we have today that's going to be representing the case?
Peter Scott.
And Robert Harris.
Okay, great. Well, we've heard you both state your names. Will you both raise your right hand and swear that you will tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon?
I will.
Okay, in that case, I think, do you have anything else, Kimberly, or can we turn it over to them?
We can turn it over to our applicants.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you to the commission and to staff. We have, as was stated, we have an updated packet before you today, which continues the development of the design of the project. We've also included some diagrammatic sketches and concepts to kind of further communicate how the building is being laid out and connecting to the overall development. The screen you're looking at here is just an aerial shot of looking north to the south and how the connection to the park to the north comes through some of the buildings as you progress south into the open portion of the building, connecting the what we'll call the more public courtyard of the building, and then how that turns to the west into the residential component of the building. You'll notice in this current design that we've addressed the comments from the previous commission meeting about widening and opening up the courtyard. We are looking and working on a full landscape development plan, which isn't currently being represented in this packet, but that will be coming to you as that develops. And I think you'll see how that is further really developing and connecting all of these landscaped and natural areas of the site. We working on the office and its development. Obviously, in the earlier presentations, we showed more of a placeholder object. We've further developed that building facade and how it could tie into the residential component. I know there was some concern about the massing and how that looked, and the height of the building and being kind of a flagship for the community. And I think the development of the office and its view from the 670 as well as the neighboring areas really goes a long way to show how these all work together. We've also worked on activating that courtyard with utilizing the architecture, lifting the building up I know there was some comments earlier about some of the cantilevering effects that we had developed, which have obviously migrated a bit, but we liked that pedestrian scale and the residential wing that's in that courtyard up, but also utilizing the connection of that one facade to help program some of the outdoor amenity spaces, possible outdoor movie theater and things to really activate the courtyard. One of the effects of pulling that residential arm off of the, and you can go forward, please, and that'd be the next slide. Pulling the residential arm, the wing that's on the east off of the office component, it really opens that office wall up and connects it to the courtyard within the site. Also provides a pedestrian corridor directly into the main circulation core of the building, which really serves the parking garage, the residential, and the office component. We did look at, and I know there's been concern from some of the commission about having a connection through this site to the back service road and the berm, I guess, towards the 670. Functionally in the building, it's just not feasible because of how the parking garage serves all the different components of the rest of the site. We also feel that the pedestrian connection to that back southern service road isn't really a destination, and we're trying to make the building be kind of the terminus of this whole overall development, natural pathways and visual connection and cues through the parkland or the park itself and the courtyard. So we feel that this is a very strong solution and addresses a lot of that concern. If you keep going on the slides, please. And I don't need to go through all of this, but this really shows how the massing has been determined and where we're putting the interior cores and how we develop the massing to the two separate structures, residential versus office. And if you keep going, please. So obviously the building plan, you'll see here in this overall site plan, the building at the lobby has been pulled back from the street a little bit, but we've activated by lifting some of the upper units off the ground and bringing down a stair column as kind of an element within the facade and some structure. It allows us that separation off of the office area and allows those views to really connect to this exterior courtyard. If you would please proceed. Again, there's another site plan, some of the comments on here that we added that specifically addressed increasing the green scale, creating a buffer between the road and the building. You'll see that in the northwest rendering image, and really kind of further reducing the mass density of the building on the site. If you would proceed, I will stop here. If you back up one slide, please, to 15. The amenity deck. So one of the features of this project is this amenity deck that sits on top of the garage, and you'll see the view of it later on. Is really this obviously a amenity deck that serves the residential component of the project, but also has two event spaces which can be combined into one large event space that could potentially be rented out to the public. So you have a public component that might be able to come in here and have an event that then also has these views over 670. The challenge we've had is opening up the site to from the north is you're really looking at the berm of the bankment of the 670 wall, because 670 is so much higher than this building, or the first floor. By raising up the amenity deck, we allow that outdoor amenity space to be lifted up and now have views of downtown, and you'll see that shortly. There's also an office amenity deck component, so the office will share as a private amenity to the office space itself, an outdoor patio and a small internal space, which they will utilize as a sole private area. So now the elevations, of course, have been updated to show some of the massing of the office building on the left there in the upper one, and then also the building articulation and color in kind of a diagrammatic elevation. The second elevation there, we're still showing that 670 elevation and how it blocks a portion of the actual parking garage. And I think you'll see in one of the views how these upper amenity deck has these wings. And we're looking at, in this particular version, you'll see the one wing that's there at that east elevation that comes down as part of the stair component to help start blocking the garage. You'll see that, as you're coming through 670, that really goes a long way to blocking what you see on that facade. I know the commission suggested, using a screen for the garage similar to Ohio State, but I think there's some, real discussion that needs to happen about who's going to be seeing that and how much screening really needs to happen. And I think we're obviously open for discussion, and that's one topic that we want to hear from you today. That last page, 22, is that looking from the north, you really get a sense of the overall building and scale and how we're really trying to break down the facade and the massing of that, and how that courtyard now has really opened up and become a true amenity to the overall area. If you would proceed, please. So a couple more views from the ground level, looking at that amenity deck. You'll see there that the first floor units of the residential have been lifted up to help open up that entry area, and that stair tower is allowed to come down and be kind of a structural corner. But then also how the glass in the office now is related to that actual courtyard. If you go one more slide to 24, you'll see a little bit more of a dust shot, but some of the lighting effects. There, you'll see some of these landscape seating, and we're looking at ways to activate that landscape for outdoor movie night or events throughout the area. So as we develop further the landscape in these courtyards, you'll see how much green space and outdoor amenity space is really being provided. This is one that we kept in the packet specifically because it's been kind of showing the progress over the last couple of months. But this is a rendering from the northwest corner showing that green buffer between the building and the road. Of course, some street trees that we have planned, but also how the building massing is really being broken down and it's changing its scale from the larger blocky version we had started with now to a much more contextual massing and recesses within the balconies. Further on, you'll see this is the view from the amenity deck, looking out towards downtown, and how we have at this location, we do have a challenge because we have all of the road noise from the highway. So we are doing these panel screens that directly block and reflect the sound off, but then also we're doing full glass panels, not only for safety, but to obviously capture the view, but also continue to control the sound. The idea is also that the outdoor amenity deck will be able to, the interior spaces will open up out to the amenity exterior spaces and really activate that during the nice months here in Columbus, when we do have them. The next view is the shot that's coming on 670 off the off-ramp as you're traveling west. You see the office building there and a portion of the garage corner. You see that plane of the stair tower that I mentioned. There's an opportunity there for graphic or signage. And we're also looking at maybe repeating that a little bit to really kind of screen that garage portion. We can't do a lot of screening on the portion of the garage that you see there now because we're trying to maintain our allowable openings for ventilation. But we are looking at creative ways to kind of block the rest of that garage. If anybody, I'm sure all of you have traveled 670 at this location. I call it the white knuckle area because it's kind of a fast and a dangerous turn. So we really want to have an honest conversation about how much we see of this building and that garage and what we can do to really shield that and activate some signage there. So interested to hear your comments today. And then I think the last image, and then I'll turn it over to Rob and anybody else that needs to comment, is the northeast corner of the office building looking back, and really the separation you get in this image. One, the icon office building in its design and some of the shape and articulation of the windows and the mullions, but also how it's separated from the residential in this view. You also see in this view, just to note, that berm, that 670, and how the elevation of 670 is much higher, right where your hand is. Yes, thank you. And that view corridor is kind of stopping at this landscaped berm. So on that, I will conclude my presentation and see if you have any questions.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's go around and get comments from everybody. Shannon, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, I think I will just comment mainly. I mean, I appreciate all the open space. I appreciate what you've done to kind of really make these two buildings feel very separate and help with the massing. And, I understand that this is the height we're going to get and it is what it is. So kind of move beyond that. I do have comments on the screening of the garage. I think that this is an opportunity to do something artistic. I'm kind of thinking of the screens, that you see on the Goodale garage, going in the other direction. If you know what I'm talking about, by the convention center. is something that I would like to potentially see happen there. So that's what I'll be looking for is how can we treat that and maybe make it a little artistic or a little fun and instead of just, you know, some type of signage. So that's really my only comment right now.
Okay, Todd?
I'll echo a lot of Shannon's comments about really appreciate the kind of the diagram discussion about how you got where you are, and it helps kind of understand the whole complex. So I appreciate that. I like the separation of the office building to the apartment through that courtyard. I think that's nice, and the element that contains the lobby is really the end of that kind of progression south, which I think is nice. I'm okay with the materials selected, the recessed balconies, and I think based on like the questions, I have a better understanding of the amenity space, which is helpful. But I do think that screening will make that feel more integrated to the overall project as a whole. Other than that, I mean, I don't really have a lot of comments on the office building yet. And I'm not sure if that's what we're talking about or not, Jason. It's a little unclear if we're trying to approve that or not today, but those are my comments on the apartment building and the parking garage.
Just to clarify, since you know we hadn't seen that before, I don't think that's the case. Staff, what's your thought on that?
So our applicant is asking for approval for the massing, scale, and proposed footprint.
Okay.
Gotcha. So not architecture.
Gotcha.
Okay. David?
I appreciate Peter's presentation, and I'm the one that started the dialogue about the screening, and I think we do need it. I appreciate what Shannon spoke about, not only the Good Ale Garage, which is the one that has the vertical light runners up and down it, but then the one that attaches to the back of the convention center that has the screening material that actually blows in the wind. It's very sculptural. And as a resident that drives that 670 corridor and goes by there, I think you're underestimating how important an opportunity this is to do something artistic. And Rob, I'll come back to you. We've worked together for, gosh, 4 or 5 years at least on this, and we've been promised art in the Jeffrey Park. It was one of the guidelines from the community in the original work when the previous owner took it. And it just isn't showing up, and it hasn't shown up. And this is our last chance to really hold on. So let's make sure it does happen. And I think it's important that you hear the commission is wanting something more than just a parking deck structure to the 670 view in. Commenting on the office building quickly, it has a feeling of similarness to the Moxie, and we don't know exactly what these materials are. It looks very transparent, very translucent. That's desirable, but that picture right there starts looking like the facade, the upper facade of the Moxie that we've reviewed. And it could play nicely on the skyline because you do see the Moxie as you go down that 4th Street ramp and exit. So there's a continuity there. I guess I'm leading to say if you wanted to play with the Moxie facade again, that's got possibilities on the top of that. It would be something fresh material-wise to the Jeffrey property.
Great. Ben?
I'll just pick up right there. I think so the office building, so far so good. I would have or would support something that was even double the height of this for that particular part of the footprint. I mean, if there's any place in the short north where taller buildings could have happened, it would have been right here along 670 on this Jeffrey site. So if that's still on your mind, it could be that something like that could still happen, especially with this glass. I think there are a lot of good things happening on this architecturally. I definitely think the applicant is listening I certainly appreciate how this sense of cantilever has kind of been emphasized or reintroduced. And Todd mentioned about the sense of separation, which I think is helped by the materials. And there's real relief happening as opposed to this fake, 6-inch relief that with different material changes. So I appreciate that. I also want to just say kudos to you guys for doing the red lines and the bubbles. You're among the first doing that, and it's so much more helpful to see what's going on when you're doing that. So thanks for that. But getting back to the connectivity between the garage and the office building, I'm just not sure I follow why that needs to happen. It just seems to me that all we're asking for is some sort of connectivity to the back road. As soon as you shut it off, there's for sure nothing going to happen out there, whereas there could have been a sort of a secondary way to park motorcycles or bikes, or there'd been a jogging path back there. So I'm still disappointed that the garage building needs to be connected to the office building. And in fact, I think it kind of violates that sense of separation that you've achieved. Moreover, this whole idea of the commons area, which is really cool and nice, but we're seeing this a lot in these larger projects where the public space is privatized. And really, it should be spaces that everybody can pass through. And I'm disappointed that we can't achieve that here when so many other things are going well. But because of that, and because I've voiced that so many times, I'm going to abstain from the vote because I wanted to make sure it's clear that the footprint does matter to me, despite a lot of the things that I think are going well in this project. But thanks for listening.
I'll just throw a couple comments in quickly. I think that these comments about the garage and the opportunities that I think crystallizes a little bit about what I've been thinking. And, from my perspective, it doesn't have to be that dramatic, but just some way to indicate what that entry is going to be that is more evocative than drawing attention in a negative way to sort of the ramped portion of that garage, which unfortunately is just sort of at the point when you start to really come around that corner. So I think if there are just some small gestures we can make to soften that visually and make it a little more exciting, that would help go a long way. And I think otherwise the overall massing, it works for me. I do think we're crossing our fingers a little bit on this office building. Who knows when or if that will move forward. I hope it happens soon, because I think some building there is going to go a long way toward screening that edge of the parking garage as you're coming in, and creating sort of the initial visual language and drawing attention as you're first coming into that portion of the exit. So I do hope that there ends up being a building there sooner than later. Whether or not it ends up exactly being office in its entirety and exactly like you've shown it, I guess we'll just all have to wait and see. But again, obviously you're going to come back for a lot more future details with the architecture of that building and whatnot. So at that point, maybe you'll have a little clarity on what the market demand ends up being. Other than that, I don't really have a lot of comments. I'm eager to see the landscape plan that details the elements of the courtyard. So far, the renderings are intriguing, the little kind of tidbits you put in there, but I certainly am excited to see the specifics of how that outlines. And I think one of the things that, to Ben's point, the width certainly does help make that feel like it's some engaged public space. One of the things I'm going to be very interested in seeing is the way that you create that space so it does feel inviting for the average person who's walking down the sidewalk to feel like they could go in there and engage it. So anything that separates that from the kind of public realm would be a negative to me, and anything that draws people further in there would be a positive. And we see these privatized spaces, or these private spaces that are not privatized, all over the place, certainly in many cities and also here, and throughout our neighborhoods in downtown. So I just want to make sure it's a good one and not a bad one, because we have both examples of really successful versions and unsuccessful. That's all I have right now. I'll turn it back over to the applicant to answer questions or comment on anything that you've heard so far.
Yes, hello everyone, Rob Harris. In regards to the garage screening, we are very aware of that. I actually said to the commission, the IBC, the picture of the garage that Commissioner Cook mentioned,
Mhm.
the OSU Wexner Medical Center garage. What it is the garage screening. We want it to be art. We want it to be exciting. We are going to spend the time, energy, and money to do that. So don't be overly concerned that we're not going to be doing that. That's a very high priority for us. And in regards to the courtyard being open, if you recall, in regards to Phase 8, our last building that's now under construction, we went to that, and do you remember we had the swimming pool in the middle and things like that? And it really didn't read as a public space open. And if you recall, we got rid of all of that. Open up the courtyard, there are no fences, no walls hiding it, totally open. We plan on doing the same here. This courtyard is 58 feet in width and everything. It's going to be totally designed public. The private part of the courtyard will be the one that's inside the donut of the building itself. So we do want this to be very public, and based on the office building and then daily guests coming to the office, they will spill out to the space. The residents will spill out into it. Visitors will. People across the street going to the park, you really go from the park connector into this. So we're very much aware of that, and we are going to keep that very open. We have plenty of time to work that. We're going to come back next month with pod design on the landscape architecture, and we are showing them in regards to Todd had mentioned he wanted more green space than hardscape, and we agree with you as well, and you'll see that in the upcoming design.
Any other comments on your end, Rob?
No, we're good on our side.
Okay,
Wait,
sounds good. Well, from the commission, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, wait, Jason, I apologize. We did also send a package that was supposed to be shared with the commissioners in regards to, what is it called? Yeah. Yeah. We're going to use a North 4th SID board, and that'll be through commissioning for art that we're going to install. And we're working with other developers throughout the Italian village. They're also going to be involved in public art. And what we wanted to be, and also we'll have any volunteers from your side that want to parlay in this. But we are going to concentrate now and really get for a public art building.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, just for, and I don't know if staff has any more information on that, but I'm not exactly sure where it is in the process. Maybe you can inform us, Rob, but I know that there is a North 4th and 5th Avenue SID that's underway. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, the board is formed.
The board's formed, but it hasn't been officially approved yet. Is that where it is?
It's approved. So yes, it's been formed. We have a board. The money comes in. We've been out to.
Can't really hear, unfortunately.
Those documents seem like there's legislation already established where.
Yeah, the SID's been formed and approved, and one of the early focuses of the SID expenditures is going to be art. So Kevin Likens has talked about sponsoring a specific art project. We're talking about 2 to 3 to start, and we want to use the SID to help manage how we go about commissioning art and placing the art. And
Great. Can I get you to swear yourself in just real quick?
This is Mark Wagenbrunner.
And will you, do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this afternoon?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
And then, so the other thought is, would you potentially support, you know, in its early stages, like mural boards on the side of the garage, so that, you know, there is good access from the back of that building where we could swap out those murals periodically and have murals right out on the freeway as a way to, you know, maybe further screen or have fun with the screening of the.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're hearing generally, that we'd be in favor of that. Anyone in particular want to comment on that on the commission?
I think it sounds good so far.
Good. So yeah, so the SID's on its way, and again, we know we've been delayed. We have pads waiting for art, and like at the front of phase 4, we're obviously going to be putting art in the park. So we appreciate your patience, but we have not forgotten our commitment. And another exciting part is the Jeffrey family themselves reached out, and we want to do something to memorialize the Jeffrey family's history here on the site. So I think we're going to have a lot of opportunities for art. We would love to, when the SID gets rolling, where we have a nice rhythm as to how we commission, manage, pay for, and maintain these art installations. So I think you're going to see some great things in the district here very shortly.
Cool. Love it. Thanks a lot. Okay. Would anybody entertain a motion as far as the request, which is we either are moving to approve the massing scale and general site plan, or we are, or we're not. So what's the consensus here of the group?
I will make a motion in favor of the 3 things you spoke about: massing, density, and so.
I'll second.
I would second.
Okay. Staff, do we need any clarifications on that before I call the motion?
So this is for the massing scale and proposed footprint as they've requested?
That's what I'm proposing, yeah. Or that's, I believe, what David's saying, since he echoed what I was saying in the motion.
All right, no questions from staff.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll call the roll. David?
Yes.
Ben?
Abstain.
Todd?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so the motion carries. All right, well, thanks for the updates, and
As always, thank you very much for your comments and your time and energy.
okay, thanks. Moving on to number 5, staff.
All right, this is IV-21-03-004. This is for 1131 North 4th Street, which includes repair of the existing historic building exterior, awnings to be added over the door, existing trash enclosure would remain but be resurfaced with a new 5-foot 4-inch dog-eared composite board with new latching hardware. There would be a new 451 square foot concrete patio with wrought iron fence and gate along the south elevation. The asphalt south of the patio is to be removed and replaced with landscaping. The paint proposed is a charcoal blue with white accents, and they're also proposing to repair the existing stucco on the north elevation. This was previously reviewed conceptually with a little bit of a different twist to it, so commissioner comments regarding that have been provided. Commissioners at the business meeting noted that this is a good direction for the project to go in. There is just a little bit of fine tuning that needs to happen. It has been requested that if the brochure supplied, that the applicant could circle the relevant information. Staff did remove that from the materials at the applicant, at the commissioner's request, so that it's not bogging everything down when you pull up that packet. Commissioners suggested thinking about stucco and paint removal from the building. It was also noted that commissioners may be in favor of repainting what's already been painting and leaving what has not been painted untouched. A larger scaled measured patio plan has been requested. The commissioners want to see what is happening in the area at a greater detail. One commissioner is not in favor of just erecting the fence around the patio and suggested having plantings to soften that area as well. Larger images of the entrances were requested to be provided at a human scale, as well as the cut product sheet for the prefabricated awning. An aluminum fence is also shown. Commissioners noted that the iron fence would be preferred. Staff recommends approval with the conditions that plantings be included in the patio area to soften that fence, a wrought iron fence be used as opposed to aluminum, and the applicant complete a test patch of stucco removal for HPO review if the original brick block cannot be salvaged to repair the stucco. instead. And this is based on the Italian village guidelines for fences and enclosures, as well as the body of the house masonry, and the Short North Design Guidelines, commercial patios and outdoor dining. These standards for alteration, part of City Code 3116.11, 2, 5, 6, 9, and 11. And Jason, I will hand it back over to you so we can get our applicants sworn in.
Sounds good. Who do we have representing the applicant today?
Mayor?
Travis? I think you might be muted.
No, I'm not on my end.
Mic's just really low for Travis. Travis, you could turn your mic up a little bit. I think that'd work. I can barely hear you.
That's as high as it goes. So I don't know. Talk louder. Let me.
Yeah, we can barely hear you, Travis. It sounds like you're far, far away. Yeah, we just can't hear you. I don't know if you have a pair of headphones or something that might help.
Or you could always try calling it on your phone for the audio portion.
True.
Just be sure to mute your.
Just mute your computer, or else we'll get well, we may not get a feedback loop since we can't hear you.
Well, but you can hear us.
True.
That would create the loop.
Gotcha. It's another moment, see if we can get it worked out.
Are 6 and 7 conceptual, or are they?
I think we only have one left, just 6, and it's
Yeah,
conceptual.
just 6.
Oh, okay.
There's only one left,
Pretty
and it is
bad.
conceptual. So we
Yes.
can,
So put the
conceptual.
number in the number and access code are in the chat, Travis, if you're having trouble finding it.
Does anybody know what the black triangle is on the proposed plan on that page right there? On the south corner, there's a very solid black triangle where it talks about that the asphalt's going to be removed and it's got grass and landscaping, but I think we specifically requested a plan, conceptual plan. I don't see it here.
It might be a vision triangle.
yeah, you're right. That probably is what it is. They just can't put anything. It's over a certain height.
Well, it appears the fence is going to go around that corner.
I think you can do that. It's just a matter of height and transparency and whatnot.
Again, though, if we don't have a better detail of the fence, oh, I'm sorry, the opaqueness seems to be around the trash enclosure. Excuse me.
Okay. Well, Travis, you can see they're trying to dial in.
And then, do I remember that when the gas company made a presentation about all the new work that they were going to do, that they were going to vacate the concrete block building that sits on the south end of the property?
Yeah, that's what they said. They said they would no longer need it, and at whatever point they were done, they would be able to remove any needed elements for that, and they'd be interested in selling it.
I think they already did remove it, and I think they potentially sold it, or they haven't removed it, but they decommissioned it. And I believe I had heard that the owner of Gicento is potentially buying that land, or interested in buying that land.
Makes sense, I suppose.
Travis,
Yeah.
how is working on calling and going?
I can't find the ID number. I mean, the ID number's not letting me in.
But we
If
can
you
sort of
change
hear
your
you now.
audio, it can probably call you. If you change your audio to phone. I have it call me. I don't know if that's just my browser or what.
Can you switch it to do that, or do you have to do that when you call it in? I'm thinking maybe, Travis, we skip over this so you can work out the audio issues and we don't hold ourselves up too much, so we can go to number 6.
Maybe you could just exit and then re-enter. Sometimes that works. The old turn it off, turn it back on trick.
I'd say we move on.
Yep, let's do that, and then we'll come back. So staff will go to this next one, which I have to abstain from as well. So I will sit this one out too.
All right. Thanks everybody for bearing with us. We are jumping over to IV-21-03-005. This is 347 East 5th Avenue again, but this is for Site 1. This is a conceptual review with the intent of the architecture is to break up the mass into 2 building types and styles. The first building stands 5 stories above parking, and its design would lead more towards the site manufacturing use. The second building is a 3.5-story building, along with a garden level of units. That design is intended to be more modern in its design nature. It is separated from the large building with external access walkways to break up the mass. The site plan as proposed is indicative of the land mass that the owner is in control of. As requested above, the application is currently showing the landscaping as schematic. The organization of the current land masses are a result of the land that the applicant controls and is dictating the north-south street design. Land parcels and projects have been set up for the possibility in future phases for the 4th Avenue, Detroit, and 3rd to pass into the site. Additionally, the site plan shows access to the garages under the buildings as well as the refuse and utility access. The existing manufacturing building will remain in service at this time. This has been previously reviewed and commissioner comments have been included. Commissioners at the business meeting are on board with the overall direction for the architecture as it picks up on the theme of the existing buildings. The windows are key for design. Commissioners have requested a detailed drawing of the entrances in a larger scale to see those details, and where the amenity engages with the garage, the front and back sides would be helpful to help all of the pieces of the courtyard come together. It was suggested that the white building should have a water table and that the parking around the edges should be parallel parking. There was no objection from the commissioners regarding splitting the building. Staff recommends commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized at a future hearing. The basis for the recommendation is City Code 3116.12, standards for new construction, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And I will give this back to you, Todd. I believe we had Daniel Hames hop on, so we will need to get him sworn in now, so he's sworn in.
Okay, sounds good. So Matt, we already have you. Dan, if you don't mind raising your right hand and stating your name for the record.
Daniel Hames.
All right, do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony this afternoon?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Take it away, Matt.
Thank you very much, and hello again. It's been a short while, but it seems like a lifetime. Sorry. So as we look at Site 1, this has been in front of you a few times, but we wanted to keep you abreast as to what was going on with the form change. The economics of the project have driven a little bit of a change here. I don't think that's me.
I think that
Are you there?
Yep.
Okay. So the economics have changed a little bit of density and simplicity to the site, whereas the entirety of the amenity, meaning the pool and the yard, was up on a podium before. It's now down at a ground plane. which Dan can kind of walk through here in just a second. But our intention is to go in for full approval in the upcoming months, and just wanted to make sure that with these changes, the momentum we had towards acceptance and generalities of the architecture and details and so on and so forth got more feedback. So Dan, you're go ahead and walk them through as necessary.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, so, I think that we had this sort of approved for conceptual before. The changes that we really made, I think actually improved the project from a pedestrian standpoint and from an openness of the project standpoint. What we've done is before sort of we had a pool deck and everything was kind of raised up on a larger scale plinth. We brought that down to grade, and we've created more sort of perforation of the site, if you will. So, the buildings are broken up and we have a much better kind of pedestrian flow through. We've added another access point, both car-wise, to get us back into the garage through there. So it breaks down the street masses a bit more to make it more similar to the remaining neighborhoods. The architectural characters of these we've used what was approved and discussed prior to sort of break these things up. If we get into this, right, so we've looked at sort of these townhouse buildings still having the white area through there. We still have kind of a black base that's going around through there that's happening at sort of banter and building level, but love to get some more feedback on sort of that water table level through there. I mean, if we just start going through this, right, so the townhouses pieces, you can see here what's happening before this mass sort of went and wrapped all the way around. You can kind of see what's happening here is that we're going to be able to see back down through in. And if we just go to the next view, you can sort of see the road that comes back in. The amenity building was out on the periphery. Now it's inside this courtyard, and everything which was elevated above street level is now sort of down at street level, much more open. This is accessible here to the public. Now we're in sort of the pool area. This amenity building is sort of taking on the language of the wrap of the warehouse building that we had at the two ends through there. And then off of the two sides here, we have just the garage exposed, view from up on top of the pool deck. This is kind of an aerial one that you can kind of see on either side of the amenity building is the garage itself, which will be screening with both brick and a mesh to screen that piece that's happening through there. And I think if we just sort of pull back, you can see this is at the southern end piece here of how this has become much more apparent than what it was before, where we had steps going up to that upper level through there. But the character of the buildings do remain the same. One of the things of note, though, that this is now 4 levels on top of the podium. It was 5 at one point in time. So this building mass, I think, has actually gotten a little bit lighter and more breathable as well, too. So don't need to spend all the time walking you through these images. So I'd love to get some feedback and some comments.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Dan. All right, Commissioner comments. Who would like to start? Shannon, you want to go first?
All right. Yep. Yeah, all of this looks good to me. I really don't have very many comments. I'm okay with the head-in parking at the easternmost portion of 4th Avenue, just because it does kind of dead end into the railroad tracks there. So that's like the one place where I really think it's appropriate. But otherwise, I think it's coming along well. I like the separation of the buildings. And I have no other comments on this one.
All right, perfect. Thanks. Ben.
I'm mostly with Shannon. I'll forgive that parking spot, the parking issue there where we had talked about parallel parking at great length before on the other site. I am on board with the grade / programming changes, or moving the pool and the amenity building down in grade. If that's, I think I understood it that way. I just want to say kudos for the connection to Fifth Avenue from that pool area. This is kind of my point, is allowing sort of this egalitarian kind of approach to these public spaces that we're giving you permission to kind of create. And I might go so far as to say that that fence that's going to be that you're proposing, one of the images, not occur. So there's no temptation to just sort of fence it out. But going over to some of the architectural pieces, I was among those who talked about water table, and it seems that we're on the right track there. It's just sometimes hard to tell on some of these images. I think what will help bear that out is a much larger scale drawing of entrances so that we can understand how entrances relate to the walk space and the streetscape. And that will give you an opportunity to show where the water table is and how materials change. On the amenity building, there's this kind of interesting symmetry aspect to it, especially with the way there's this kind of peak of the parapet in two of them. And yet the glass and the signage creates this kind of wraparound treatment. I guess it's just a little puzzling, but the only thing I really object to is if there's going to be this kind of wraparound feature of the architecture and windows and the spandrel, that may be okay, but this whole idea of the black sign element wrapping around seems a little too much. So if you just pull back on that. The other thing I'm concerned about, or just want to see more detail on, is what the various cornices are. So it seems that there's some straightforward corbelling happening on some of these brick buildings, but on the white buildings, it's unclear about what that material will be and how much definition you're going to give it. So I'll want to see more detail on that. I think that's all I have for now.
Perfect. All right, thank you. David.
I'd like to go to page 10. There it is. I have an issue with the harshness of the white and the blackness of the black on the back building. I have no problem outside the boundary along the long facade, but this facade, I really think you've got too much fighting of black-white in the color contrast and break it up more. An excellent example is if you go behind the North Star Woods building and you look at that whole mass of balconies on the backside, the whole black back, it's a real off-putting, it's very unpleasant, and I don't want to see us do it or have it happen on our side of the street, so to speak, on our community. So let's talk about changing the material colors on this big, massive black set. Ben, I don't know if you were saying that on the amenity building, it looks like a little fake Disneyland parapet or little Parthenons that came together to be around the pool. Do we need all of that? Could it be simplified? And then you look the other direction and there's just this great big massive white wall, which in our climate, in our city, in this part of the area, is going to age possibly not really well. So how about toning the white down to being more of a limestone color, but not such a harsh white? If you go to picture 11 or page 11, and notice that you're introducing some sort of a buff or a tan, maybe you do a lighter step-down derivative of that and put that on the back in some areas too. This looks, the white isn't so harsh and stark by itself, but when you go back to look at page 10 and see that whole white wall fighting the black wall. It just, I think you can do better.
Great. Thank you, David. And I think my only comments, a lot of the items that have already been mentioned, I would echo. I think the only thing I'll be looking for as you move forward is just that connection of the amenity building, the parking garage, and like how those pieces just come together. And what that building experience is like on the upper tier. Right now, it looks like that the materials and character maybe changes on the backside, just kind of better understanding that and how those three kind of elements come together. But otherwise, I'm in favor of all the changes that you've made to the site plan so far.
Can I ask a quick follow-up on some of this stuff? So
sure, absolutely.
One of the pieces was sort of that fence that we have. At some point, we're going to have to be able to control folks that are coming into the pool and sort of that for safety code and all of that. And so we've got to look at somewhere that we're going to be able to close down this piece, right? And so that's going to be of a concern of sort of access and, you know, just sort of safety codes for that pool and getting stuff back in through there. So I don't think we're going to be able to fully eliminate fences, and I think that we'll also there may be some concerns for at evenings of security of being able to lock some stuff down. So I just wanted to put that out there before we
it's an urban area
further off of that. Right.
The only thing I'll add, and thank you all for your comments, certainly, is that amenity building and the connectivity up to that level, the upper level by the industrial building, as I'll call it, is intended to be, you know, represent itself as an outdoor park. So the intent, so you're aware, is anyone in that upper building is able to come out and enter on that grade level into what will be the second level of the site amenity building, transverse down, and then the first level will align with the pool level. So we're really working, and you'll see this in the details in the formal presentation, of this sort of connectivity of resident throughout that space. So something we're really excited about. I think the very, very happy with the slight pivot of this project.
Yeah.
Todd, if I could also just add that I think that it would be useful if we saw the elevation of the entrance in the garage. I don't know if that was requested in some other comments.
Sure.
But there's that big delta of grade change, you know, from that lawn over the parking area and the approach to it. So.
Yeah, that's no problem. What's intriguing and interesting about this site that is not overly perceivable, because there are really, if you go past it today, almost two defined grades from east to west, is that there's, you know, just under 14 feet of drop. So digging into that hill, I think, is going to help make it seem less massive.
Great. All right. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Hope that's enough comments to keep you moving.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any success yet on the previous application?
I know he called in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe he called in on call-in user 4. So if you would unmute yourself, sir, you can speak. I had to mute before we were getting a lot of feedback.
All right.
There you go.
You want me?
Is Travis?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, doubling back, staff, you had already given your staff report, so we're ready for the applicant. Now I can't find you, applicant, to swear you in.
You know, and I'm having trouble now with the video part.
Staff, since we already know that.
Oh, you know what? My internet just crashed. Sorry, this is ridiculous. I'm going to reboot my router, but I can talk and I can swear myself in.
So since we did have visual confirmation, and we were able to connect his voice even though it was soft. I think we're okay. Once we get video, we might want to formally swear him in so we have that on the visual record.
Sounds good. Sounds great. So Travis, just for now, do you promise to tell the truth of your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon?
I do.
Okay, great. So we'll let you talk while your machine is rebooting, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So what we're proposing, I guess when we first started this project, we were looking at the architecture across the street and down the road a little bit, and we were going to do a modern flair with some metal siding, veneers, and different things. And much to my surprise is let's historically, let's put this building back together. And so obviously we circled back around and presented tuck pointing, fixing the stucco on the building, and then painting, the building and make it clean and new. And then, we're putting a restaurant inside. So there is about a 450 square foot exterior patio proposed for entertainment, or not entertainment, but food and drink. We're thinking 25 to 30 seats on it. And all the commissioners, recommendations as far as fencing and, planners, any kind of screening and privacy from 4th Street, and also from, just the pedestrians walking by. We would, the owner's on board really to do anything that we decide on today or in, staff meetings or emails back and forth. But we're hoping for approval. They actually, the certificate of appropriateness is holding up the building permit. And I mean, we were actually surprised that someone had said we could pull a permit, but they're holding the permit. So I'm trying to re-enter now. It's not ready yet. So like I said, the owner is asking me to, work with you guys and pretty much just ask for approval, or, approval with conditions, and then work out the details. I know you had asked for some enlarged elevations of the entry and some details. The human scale, the building's there, so it's really hard without maybe going into Photoshop or trying to throw the color on it and do some, I mean, you look at all the presentations that went before me and I'm like, wow, we're throwing some beautiful projects into this area and we want to be part of that. So whatever we need to do, the owner wants to do it. So.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Let's walk through the commissioners, and then we will see what other thoughts you may have. Let's start. Ben, you want to start?
I actually have kind of a general question. I'm a little unclear about where the entrance is. Is it along 4th Street or is it off of 4th Avenue?
Applicant, can you clarify that just real quickly?
Yeah, it's right on the. I'm going to grab up my site plan because now I'm going to confuse myself. I'm on another computer now.
At first I thought it was on 4th Street, but now I realize that on that east elevation it's just windows, I think.
There's a couple, looks like there are a few doors in there.
There's going to be one door down at the far, and then there's one.
Yeah, it's on North 4th Street all the way to the south. That's right by the patio. That's the main entrance. And it's actually,
by and large, I'm aligned with staff. I do think the applicant could still provide a larger scale drawing of the entrance, and that perhaps this is just about that that we are clear about what the materials are on the awning feature. And I guess I thought that there might be an opportunity, and this is for a broader conversation with the commission, is to allow an opening to penetrate the wall to create kind of a vestibule off of 4th Street so that there's not this harsh in and out of a single door along 4th Street, which is not a very wide sidewalk. So I would support the idea of cutting through the wall, allowing sort of an inner space beyond the wall that maybe could also convert into some sort of seating area, but it's not air. It's not conditioned air. It's just simply just a space to allow a little bit of relief off 4th Street as an entrance experience, as opposed to just this one door and an awning. Otherwise, and that certainly should be explored through a larger scale drawing. But even if that's not going to be explored by the applicant, let's just make sure we're clear about what these awning features are in terms of materials and connections.
Stay with that. Sorry.
And that I support staff's recommendations fully as a way to move forward.
Okay, so
Speaking
like
of
David,
awnings,
you said
stop right there. Stop right there. Why is there an awning on the far right end of this elevation, which is the north side of the building? There's no door there. You don't need it for sun control because it's facing north, and it's at a different height. The awning is hanging at a different height than the others, which doesn't seem to be logical or necessary.
Which elevation?
I'm looking at the east elevation, and at the far right end of that drawing, there appear to be two some sort of awnings that have no window or have no door on the other end.
So I'm not, can I talk? I don't even know how this works now.
Yeah, just go ahead and answer.
I'm actually logged back in.
You can clarify if you can see, if you do know what we're talking about.
Yes, it actually should have been, the higher one should have been erased when we revised, and somehow it stayed on there. There is an exit on the north elevation to that dining room. So
Gotcha.
there is this, but the higher awning should have been eliminated, but that's really an egress only. So if the staff feels like it's overkill or not, doesn't make any sense, I mean, it could easily go away.
Well, then look at the south elevation, again to the right side. It's showing two different awnings hanging at different heights, and yet when I go up to your east elevation, there is only one awning, and it's over the main front door, which is logical and a good thing. The other thing that we're going to have to see here are what anticipated signage or graphic identification is going to be used. And all of that will need to come before the commission. So to approve this, we need that to be accurate. What you're showing us are things that were drawn on the drawings, but you're saying they're not real, they don't really go there. That doesn't help us approve these.
Sure.
But we obviously can have signage come back later time if we need. If you have other comments and those.
I think there's a lot of penetrations to the building that the varied sizes of what was once a great big door and now becomes a great big window, but doesn't match with the other windows. There's something there that is just awkward about the way that's done. Or let's drop down to the elevation where the north elevation that appears to be is going to be some sort of a rolling door, or what is that?
Correct. Yeah, that's a full glass door.
But it might be,
it's an overhead door now, so we were replacing the opening with the door. Again, we took the literally term of restoring, all the different size openings. I mean, going with a clear sill height around
Let me interrupt real quickly. Hold on. Okay. Let me interrupt. We kind of let you answer some questions, but this is turning into just a free-form explosion of conversation. So let's go through all the comments of the commissioners, then we'll go through the applicant, and then we'll hopefully get through this meeting before we dwell for another hour. So, David, do you have any other comments that are specific to any of the things that you've already mentioned or anything new?
No, I'll let it go. There's lots of detailed issues that I just don't think are presented for us to make any sort of final approval tonight, but would encourage that the drawings be accurate when they're presented to us, that they take a look at whether it would be more interesting to use the multi sticking on the, say, like the garage door that I just spoke about and bring it around to the front versus these crisscross mullions in the big windows that make it have more compatibility. I think Fox in the Snow would be an excellent example for inspiration on that. Or should this big window on the east elevation in the center become a rolling door to actually let fresh air into the restaurant?
Okay. Shannon?
So I agree with everything staff has. I really feel that a lot of these, I think what the request is, and Jason, you're going to kill me because I do have a question that the applicant can wait to ask till we're all done, which is I want to clarify that what they need right now is approval on massing. And I feel perfectly comfortable giving that to them and having them come back for signage, windows, architectural details.
I don't think that's quite right. Let's have staff fill us in on that.
Okay.
So this is an already existing building. So, I mean, its massing's already determined. I would suggest if we can't approve everything, maybe we could approve the tuck pointing and the repainting of the existing brick. That way, there is something that they can do to move forward and kind of start renovating this building.
What I'd be curious about is whether or not any of these suggestions about how to better penetrate the building inspire the applicant in a way that he would prefer a table and come back and
and let's also wait until everybody gets through this, because I don't agree with a lot of comments that have been said by the commission so far. So let's just try and get through this the way we get through every application. This has descended into anarchy. Okay, so Shannon, do you have any other comments?
That's it. I think the one comment I would like to make is that I think that I think keeping the windows where they are needs to happen. It's where they are. I think the applicant has done a good job of basically taking this and just taking it back to where it's at now in a very simple way, and I appreciate that.
Okay, Todd.
I'm pretty on board with most things. The two things that stick out to me are needing some kind of cut sheet to better understand what the canopies are. They're prefab units, so I'd like to see what those are so we understand the materials. And then secondly is piggybacking on David's comment about the strategy for the new windows. The openings I'm okay with, they're there. It's just the aluminum storefront, I think, fits in a new building that's kind of a storefront situation. I think that this is just kind of a strategy that's blanketed over all these different windows. And I think there's lots of different ways. You could still use aluminum, but maybe it's more mulled together, more traditional looking scale type of things that could actually embrace all the different sizes. So I'd like to see a little bit more of a thoughtful strategy to how they do the windows. And those are my two comments.
Okay, great. The comment I'm no offense, Ben, I either don't understand what you're talking about or I disagree with it. I think the windows as they are, that the weirdness of this building, if we're preserving what it is now, then let's preserve it what it is now. If we're going to start putting recessed areas and this and that, then let's not go back to preserve it. Let's let him come in with a funky, weird design. I thought we were extraordinarily clear last time when we told him we wanted him to basically come back in with a restored version of exactly what was there. We didn't say any of that stuff. So, I haven't changed on that. Doesn't sound like a couple folks have changed on it. So that's where I am. I have no interest in you doing anything, cutting back, doing this, standing on your head or any of that stuff. This is a weird kind of jacked up building that still has architectural characteristics to it. And I think that's what I'm asking to be preserved is the kind of weirdness of it. And it is a bunch of weird size windows and openings. I think Todd's right on point that the strategy of how those windows actually function and are designed and installed in there is what's going to make it unified in the right way. But I don't want to change it. And I think the biggest discussion that we had at the business meeting, which is, one I'm interested in, and this can really be handled through staff as far as I'm concerned, is I also like the weirdness of the fact that, you've got a partially painted building now. And this is sort of like, all the weird things that happened over the years. Let's just kind of let's go with it. Let's see, what that ends up being when it's restored. If the stucco is restorable because the brick underneath is no good, then let's restore that stucco and paint that wall. If the front, the upper portion that's not painted, I wouldn't want to see painted. And, if the lower portion, maybe there's a treatment we can use on that to, partially remove some of that paint and maybe leave some of it on there. I'm okay with that too. I think it's really about, this is a building that has evolved over time to be strange, and it's unique in its evolution. And I think we should just embrace it and let it be that. So that's where I am on this. The details like signage, the fencing, all that kind of stuff, I feel like we can either have them come back or have staff work it out. So that's where I am today. And I kind of turn it back over to the applicant for any other thoughts or questions you have before we decide what we're going to do.
Real quick, since we have our applicant back on.
Video.
Yeah, can we get him sworn in again so we've got that video confirmation?
For the record on video.
I do.
Can you state your name, Travis, on video?
Yep. Travis Mayer.
Great. And I heard you say you do promise to tell the truth in your testimony. Okay, great.
I do.
Sounds good. Okay, go over to you for any other questions.
Well, I actually like that's why I said when I first came in, we were going to just go ahead and make a modern sided, stucco. We were doing vertical siding. We were putting panels in and composite this and that. And I really like the idea of historically bringing this back to life and leaving the quirkiness. Those, the prefab awnings, a few people have talked about. I know the consistency of the drawings. We added we didn't take them all off. But those are just, they were going to be bronze, or not, the anodized bronze finish. So they're going to match the color of the frames of the windows. But again, I could get cut sheets. We can, get those to you for internal review or however we need to do it. But the biggest thing is the owner really was hoping to get some type of approval. We can even mock up a piece of the stucco on the building, on a piece of the stucco. We can, like I said, we can work and do something where everybody can come out and look at it and see what they think. I mean, it actually sounds like a neat project to do. Let's see what the building tells us it wants to be when we start repairing it, or, so.
Yeah, staff will do that for you. Yep. Okay, well, staff, what do you recommend? It sounds like we have a number of items that include canopies, the windows themselves, landscaping / fencing and signage. What do you recommend that we do tonight?
I recommend approving
Can I
what
add
you're
one more
comfortable
thing?
with. The signage isn't on the table, so that's going to have to come back regardless.
Right.
It sounds like most of the commissioners want to see the windows again, so I think we might need to continue that. I would be comfortable if I got the cut sheets of the awnings, either approving that as staff or doing that as a subcommittee, and same with the fence in the landscaping area, because I will need a cut sheet of that fence, especially if we want that to be wrought iron as opposed to aluminum.
Yep, which we need to put in any motion.
Correct.
Okay, so with that, is anybody willing to make a motion on that one?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
Move to approve application IV 2103004 on the condition that the windows come back for full commission review, and that staff reviews the aluminum awnings and iron fence.
And then also, can you put in the thing about the stucco that the staff requested?
Yes, that if the applicant will test remove an area of stucco to see if the brick underneath can be salvaged. If it can, the stucco should be removed. If the brick cannot be salvaged, the stucco can be repaired and repainted.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. I will call the roll. Shannon,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and Jason's yes. Okay, so it carries. So staff, applicant, work with staff because they're going to guide you through these last issues to make sure that you don't get hung up. So definitely keep in close contact to avoid any mishaps.
And one more thing, as we talked about the signage package or graphics coming back, also exterior lighting for both the patio area, the facade of the building, which isn't showing at the present time, needs to be brought forward to us.
Yeah, good point, David.
Staff would like to ask for
Signage,
clarification.
exterior lighting. So just to reiterate, we would like to look at the windows as being broken out, down into more mullions or just something different. I mean, not the big 4x8 panels that we have now. And is that something that's going to come back to the commission here like this, or is it internally, sent over?
Yeah, that'll come back to us through staff. But the other items, it sounds like could be back to staff, according to Shannon's motion.
All right.
Yes, and just as clarification for me, with that patio space, did that fence also include my recommendation as well as other commissioners for the landscaping to kind of soften it up a little bit?
I believe so, Shannon. Is that your intention of that?
Yes.
Yep. And Todd, your intention with the second?
Yep.
Okay. So yes, it did.
All right, thank you. I wanted to make sure that was included if it was needed.
Okay. Well, thanks, Travis. Glad you made it through your technical difficulties.
All right. Thank you.
All right, staff, where are we now?
So we are done with all the new applications. Under new business, it's not on the agenda, but I did reach out to those members of the commission that their terms are expiring. And I do want to correct myself. You will need a resume and a letter to the mayor. And that either that can go to me or that can go directly to Jamie. Ultimately, it gets to Jamie. But
Gotcha. How many people are expiring?
3.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And
Are
please
there
get those.
any folks in the wings that are looking to get on board and hopefully with some diversity or gender changes?
I do not know. I don't know who's in the wings. So I would have to touch base with Jamie, and I think I'm going to talk to him on Friday. If not, I'll send him an email as well. But it does take city council a couple of months to approve those. So
Could you just share who our fellow commissioners are that are renewing?
as long as it Ben, Todd, and Brooke.
Brooke.
Yes.
I think she came in as a replacement.
Oh.
So they keep, I think, because isn't that how it works? That the terms stay set and you just fulfill the end of whatever term you come into, I think.
I'm not positive. It makes sense. None of you guys have come in as a replacement while I've been with the city. Okay.
Well, not when you were there, but my first term was only like 2 years instead of 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened.
Staggered. All right. I hope
Jason, I'm
back.
sorry I spoke out of turn on that But I do think that there was a great opportunity for a different entrance that didn't violate the building. It's got a low sill height right in the middle that would have been also a good entrance. So.
Oh, it wasn't you speaking out of turn. It was just that the applicant was like starting to spiral into one of our things. So that it wasn't directed at you at any means. I'm sorry if you thought it was. Okay, so I guess anybody else have anything at all?
Move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Before we do, is there anything from the Italian Village Society that we should know, or from the foundation?
I was just trying to think about. It was a pretty uneventful meeting. There's tons of development going on though, especially University District area and Harrison West. But I mean, there was just a lot of things in a row. It wasn't anything specifically that I was reminded of.
Are they up to anything?
Are the I mean, those areas? I mean, they're
no, the foundation.
I mean, kind of. Just kind of keeping track of things. Really, it's just more of a conduit of conversation than anything else. But there's some things they had given out some funds for something, but I honestly I got to go back and look at the notes. I'm woefully unprepared for your question.
The society should be moving their meeting in the next couple months. So once that happens, we will start attending their meeting again.
What's the guy's name that is taking over the leadership of that society?
It's a woman. Her name is Jenny Frankfurt.
Okay, but there was
the Andy Plunkett, maybe?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Thank you. Is he still doing anything?
Yeah, he runs the Parks Committee.
Okay.
All right.
And they've been showing up too for the foundation meeting. So it's it seems like everything's going okay. The big news that I was able to share is as David probably knows, is it looks like the ice cream sandwich, cookie ice cream sandwich shop is very close to opening.
Yeah, we're doing samples on Sunday.
Ooh.
Wait, where is this?
It's on the corner of First and 4th. First Avenue and 4th Street. So yes, take fresh baked cookies and then they make an ice cream sandwich out of it. Pretty solid concept, I gotta say.
I'm with that concept.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know a lot about tattoo parlors, but I will say the one that is next to it is very busy. Yeah, I've walked past there and watched a lot of people get tattoos lately. So entertainment all the way up and down 4th.
So if we see you staring in the window, it's not because you're thinking about it.
I've been thinking about it for 30 years. I'm just too indecisive. I still can't figure out what I want to get.
Okay, guys, I'm going to cut off if we're done with all of our.
I think we're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does everybody motion to adjourn? I heard out there. Is there a second?
I'll make it.
All right. All in favor by hand, show of hands.
Hold on, I need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
That's Ben. Okay. All in favor.
Shannon, were you trying to say something?
I just want you to, the property across the street from the market, that old gas station, it looks like they just paved a bunch of parking spots, striped a bunch of parking spots.
Oh dear.
So just check it out. I don't know if those should be there or not, but.
I don't believe
we'll have Brooke Michael Smith check it out. Or Lauren.
Now you're just picking on people that aren't here.
Right.
Shannon, I don't have any recent approvals for any asphalt paving, so I hate to suggest this, but you might want to submit it to 311 for them to check out.
You might want to check with James on that because a few years ago, they just paved the whole friggin' yard, they took everything away, and he got involved in that and pulled it way back. So I don't know whether they asphalted more of the surface, but they tried that once before.
Yeah, no, and they fixed it, but now they've striped it for an interesting amount of parking spots in an interesting configuration. Which I've heard it's gonna, I've heard that there's a tenant that's gonna be moving in at some point. But I just didn't know that. I didn't know if we even had the purview to approve that or not, or is it all allowed to be whatever parking they want?
Is it still owned by the Crest people, or did they sell it?
Well, this isn't the market. This is across the street from the market.
Right.
That's owned by
But
North Step. And they
the
have
Crest
rented it.
family owned it at one time. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Franklin County Auditor's side, David.
Yeah.
Figure it out. All right.
It sounds like it's one for me to research.
I think we're officially adjourned, so.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you all.